to the Who's Right podcast. And yeah, I just want to say, I apologize for last week. I caught up with me. I went out of town and completely goofed up on the timing of everything. So apologize for not coming back next week. But I mean, before we get started, subscribe to the channel, like this video. Let me know how you're feeling. Are you feeling as the way I sound right right now? Are you feeling um, you know, a little bit more optimistic now that Mendoza's not here? Yeah. How are you feeling? How are you feeling? Let me know how you're feeling because I don't even know how to feel because I can't. I don't know if it was completely Mendoza's fault, but something had to happen. I guess that's what the rule is. That something had to happen. So we'll get started there. I don't know how long this pod's going to be because how much can you talk about it, right? You could talk about it until you're blue in the face. You can talk about it over and over again, but it's been a disappointing year, completely. There is no way around that. It's been a complete disaster of a season so far, and so you can't sugarcoat that. You can't. Um, I guess you could lay blame on everybody. You could blame, Mendoza. You could blame Stearns. You can blame Cohen. You can blame everybody at this point, and it's disappointing. No one expected the Mets to win the World Series this year, but everyone expected them to compete, and we're just not competing. There's no way around that. Our bullpen is solid, but sometimes, as you saw in the first month, our bats aren't there, and now our starting pitching is taken is not producing. So just to recap the week, we went 1-6 this week. Right, got swept by the Cubs and lost two out of three to the Phillies this weekend. And it's the first time they won in there in a couple years, and that happened on Friday. Um, the Pete Crow. The only thing that you can get out of the Cubs series is the disappointing and one of the worst trades that the Mets ever did is trade away Pete Crow Armstrong. Um, doesn't matter what you feel about the guy. I know he's got his a couple of his issues and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter um, how you feel about him. The guy produces. So it's one of those things where um, some people doubt his swing. Some people doubt that he's gonna last last a long time as one of those top pitchers. I mean, top hitters in the league. Because he does swing at everything, and but at the end of the day, we could have used a bat like that. We could have used a bat in center field, and mind you, this is coming off of AJ Ewing hitting a home run today. AJ Ewing's going to be awesome. I have no doubt about that. And so it's just very disappointing. You go into the season, and I watch every game. I don't miss a game. Victor, you all know Victor asked me today, how can I stick this out? Well, I've been watching the Mets for since the '80s, early '80s, and so it's something that you persevere through. We're Mets fans, and I always say, at least back in the day, I got, blessed by being a Giants fan and humbled by being a Mets fan. And so, um, it's just one of those things. But, going back to the Pete Crow Armstrong, that's just the worst trade, for a player that, you know, we kind of all the writing was on the wall to the player that Baez was, and so that trade is disappointing. But I digress. We have AJ Ewing, Carson Bench now, so I think our outfield will be fine. So I'm not, you know, it's just when you're not hitting the way you're supposed to, and your pitching is not producing. You look at everything, every aspect of what happens. And so that's what we got. We got to mention the Pete Crow Armstrong thing. Not that at this point we haven't moved on, because obviously we have moved on with AJ Ewing and Carson Bench. So I'm not too, hung up on it as well. It's just something that I wanted to point out. The Philly series, we had it, with the AJ Ewing home run. You know, we had the series victory over the Phillies, and Senga gives it up to Schwarber. Um, there's nothing around that. There's nothing that you can say that to sugarcoat that. Senga just doesn't matter if he's coming out of the bullpen. It doesn't matter if he's starting. He's just Senga at this point. I had high hopes for Senga, but he obviously cannot. I don't know what's going on with Senga. I'm not saying that he's done, because obviously, he's only in his um, early 30s, and so there's a lot of Senga left, and but it's just one of those things that what happened to the rookie Senga, what happened to the Senga that was close to winning a Cy Young, not close to winning a Cy Young, but he was in the conversation. And so, what happened to that guy? Was it a 1 year wonder? Is that what we're thinking, that it was a 1 year wonder, and that's we're never going to see that singer again? And at this point, that's a big possibility, right? Because our Senga does not produce anymore. You know, yes, he only gave up a couple runs, but at the end of the day, we needed him to shut the door, give us five strong without giving up any runs, and he just couldn't do it. And so, you know, obviously, he said he doesn't want to be sent down, even if the Mets ask him to. So obviously, that is something that we need to figure out. Is it another DFA candidate? You know, I don't know. You know, I can't. It's hard to say, um, but there has to be something that needs to be done with Senga. And then you go, and then Peterson yesterday for the Cubs only gives up 2 runs. And let me see how many innings did he pitch? He pitched 5 and 2/3. 5 and 2/3 by Peterson yesterday. Obviously, I wish him the best. This is no ill will towards Peterson, in a sense that, but why couldn't you do that for us, right? Why couldn't you just give us 2 run ball over 5 and 2/3 innings, right? Um, is he a guy that needed a change of scenery? I don't know, but he did well for the Cubs yesterday. Hopefully he keeps it going. Like I said, I don't want any ill will, but it just doesn't make sense that his first outing out, he he pitches to only 2 runs, right? So, but c'est la vie. That's just how it works. But yeah, the firing of Mendoza, right? Let's talk about that for a second. I personally like Mendoza. Um, I didn't think he should have gotten fired, because um, he can't make Nolan McLean pitch well. That's not on him. You know, he can't make Peterson pitch well. He can't make Senga pitch well. Those are the guys that have been we've been disappointed with. Is those guys, and so I just I just don't get it. I know something needed to be done, and the way that David Stearns spoke on the podium about Mendoza makes me believe that this was a Cohen move. You know, this was a move that Cohen wanted to see some change, right? You know, and who can blame him? Who can blame him at this point? You know, something needed to happen. Some heads needed to roll, and that guy had to be Mendoza. Mendy had to go to see if we can turn this around, similar to what the Yankees. I mean, not well, similar to what the Phillies did with Mattingly. See what happens, and maybe this thing can get turned around. The crazy part is that we're not too far away from the raw card. So that's the crazy part. But I digress. You know, I like Mendy. I know a lot of people hated Mendy and his moves, um, but at the end of the day, he was the sacrificial lamb in this case. Whether we agree it should have been him or it should have been Stearns, right? Stearns doesn't get absolved from all this, right? He's one of those guys that is in charge, and so you know why leave Mendoza and not also fire the both of them? The answer is well, Stearns is doing the job that he can. Um, we all can Monday quarterback and think that all these things are available to us. But at the end of the day, we don't know what's available to us. You know, just because we play MLB the show doesn't mean that we know how to make deals in the real world. I think that what they needed to do um, is start over from the beginning. This whole thing that they did, not so much Stearns, but he's living with the fallout of it, and that's where we are right now is the fallout of everything. Um, to give those contracts out to a Verlander, to a Scherzer, even to I forget, I'm forgetting the name right now. It's we were trying to win and build the farm system at the same time. Here's the problem with all that is that the fans aren't going to accept anything other than going to the playoffs, at least for the Mets side, right? And you couldn't throw money at it. Money can't buy everything, right? You bought these players that were decent players like a Scherzer, like a Verlander, like a Marte, right? You put them all in here and for the hopes that they can catch lightning in a bottle and build this team into a championship team. And mind you, we're there trying to win. And so personally, I would have just burnt everything down and started over with Soto and Lindor. Those are the only two untouchables of the team. Is Soto and Lindor. That's it. Everybody else could have gone. Nemo, just like he did, could have been gone. Alonzo gone. Everybody gone. Start from scratch. The problem is that they didn't do that. They gave out those big contracts, right? How much money is in our is dead money on our cap? Not cap. There's no cap in baseball. Owners want a cap, but there's no cap, in baseball. But luxury under the luxury tax, over the luxury tax. We're way over. The Mets are way over, and um, but you know, they wanted to see it if we could throw money at the wall, if we could do something about it. It obviously didn't work out because the fan doesn't understand the difference between trying to create a competitive ball club versus a championship ball club. And right now, with the young guys on the team, we're not a championship ball club. We're a competitive ball club, and that's the thing that the fans right now don't understand because the Mets spent so much money on some players, and we have all this dead money, one of the highest payrolls ever. But that has nothing to do with Stearns or Mendoza. So, but anyways, I don't agree, but it's happened. Now we have Andy Green as the interim manager. Let's see how he does. At the end of the day, it's up to the players, right? What's going on with McLean? What is going on with McLean? He was supposed to be the future ace of the ball club. Peralta, what's going on with Peralta? All of a sudden, he can't pitch anymore. What is that? Those are two guys that you're supposed to be relying on, and they aren't relying on these guys because they can't. Because these guys are basically killing the team right now. So it's just disappointing to see. You can't do anything about it, but it's just disappointing to see where this team has gone. And where is it going? I have no idea. Um, we'll see. But Stearns was talking about Mendoza, and he got emotional a couple times during the conversation with the media. You can see that he didn't want to fire Mendoza, and but I that's why I believe that this was a press conference. I'm sorry, this was a Cohen related move on this one because I think you could tell in his face if you're really analyzing him that he didn't want to fire Mendoza. He didn't want to do it. So, but we move on to the future. Um, we kind of touched on it a little bit. What's going on with McLean and Berardi? Berardi's not pitching anywhere close to the guy that was pitching for Milwaukee last year. Did we get had, um, or are we going to turn this around? Right? Um, you know, I don't want to believe that we got had by Milwaukee. I think he can turn it around, but you know, time is running out. Time is running out for this team if it hasn't run out already. And the same goes for Peralta. Has the time run out for him to be a New York Met next year? It might have because of the way he's pitching. Because even though he's a reliable pitcher, do you want that on your ball club right now? Right? Um, you know, um, the other guy that's been disappointing is Myers. To be honest with you, um, our bullpen has been great except for the front end, right? Where the driver is and all that. So it's just yeah, I don't even know what to say anymore. I am I feel like I'm speaking in circles because I don't know about this team. This team is frustrating. This It's frustrating to watch. It's frustrating to see, and it's and this is disappointing because it should have been competitive with the players that were brought in. It should have been competitive, and it's very disappointing. But let's look to the future. This week, who do we got going this week? Who do we got going this week? We got with the Blue Jays and the Braves this week. Look, we're past the point where I'm saying win some series. Obviously, that's difficult for this team to do, is to win some series in a row, a couple series in a row. Obviously, this team has a problem with, um, you know, um, doing it most things right, pitching, sometimes hitting, you know, but it's something that needs to change just so we can watch some baseball. I want to watch some baseball. This team needs to turn it around. There's no way around it. This team needs to figure it out and at least be competitive. Even if we miss the playoffs, at least be competitive. Let's watch some good baseball. Um, that's basically it. Let's watch some good baseball. At this point, there are no expectations. The pressure's off at this point, guys. The pressure is off to produce, right? At this point, there is no pressure. So, guys, start producing. Start producing. Make this competitive. Doesn't matter if we make the playoffs or not. Obviously, some people are going to unpack, and yeah, some people are just going to pack it in. But we just want to see some competitive baseball. That's all we want to see. But guys, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm still jet lagged from being, um, out of town. Yeah, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and this team's got us all twisted up. But we still love this team. Um, we still want to see this team produce, and at the end of the day, um, we love this team. Let's go Mets.